The sound of tearing fabric and muffled laughter broke the still air behind the gas station. The sun blazed overhead, pitiless and bright, illuminating a scene no one should ever witness. Officer Mara Collins stood pressed against the concrete wall, her pulse hammering in her throat, as her uniform was ripped apart by two men who believed they ruled the world, because no one had dared to stop them yet. Her breath came in sharp, trembling gasps. Fear and disbelief tangled inside her chest. She had faced armed men before, stood beside the fallen, but never like this. Never so exposed, so stripped of dignity beneath the burning daylight. Her mind scrambled through training drills and her father's old warning. Never let them see fear, Mara. Fear gives them power, but fear had already won. Her heart screamed for help that didn't come. The steady hum of traffic just beyond the corner mocked her silence. Cars sped by, engines droning, a cruel reminder that the world kept moving while she was trapped in her own private hell. If you're watching this on Stories of Kindness, and you believe compassion and courage still have a place in this world, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe, because stories like this remind us that hope can come from the most unexpected places. Mara's morning had begun quietly. A routine call, reports of a suspicious vehicle near the edge of town. Just another stop on a quiet stretch of highway. The gas station there was ordinary. Clean asphalt, sun-faded red trim, vending machines humming in the heat. She pulled in to check things out, cautious, methodical, professional. But the vehicle was bait, a setup crafted by 5 men who had tracked her patrol patterns for weeks. They didn't care about her badge. They wanted revenge. Months earlier, she had arrested one of their own, and now they wanted to humiliate her for it. Their leader, Vince Harrow, had eyes like shattered glass, cold, sharp, and hollow. He was the first to grab her, mocking her authority as if her uniform were a costume. His crew followed, cornering her behind the station, hidden from cameras and passing eyes. The stench of oil and fuel mixed with the heat rising from the pavement. Everything felt too bright, too brutally honest. Vince had once been a mechanic, a man who fixed things, but prison had twisted him. Now he only wanted to break. He wanted others to feel as powerless as he once did behind bars. With Mara pinned, he laughed, a cruel sound of a man pretending to be in control. Then came a memory. Her daughter, little Ellie, only 5 years old, waiting at her grandmother's house, drawing pictures of Mommy the hero. The thought nearly shattered her. She wasn't supposed to cry. Officers didn't cry, but tears burned her eyes anyway, mixing with dust and terror. One thug filmed it, hands shaking with excitement. Another clapped, cheering. The rest just watched, faces empty, hearts rotten. Though it was broad daylight, the world had never seemed darker. The sunlight glinted off her badge, a small flash of what she once believed in, growing dimmer by the second. Then she heard it, a low rumble at first, distant and unclear, like thunder crawling across the horizon. The laughter wavered. One of the men glanced toward the highway, squinting. The sound grew louder, engines deep and heavy, rolling closer in unison, the kind of sound that vibrates through your chest before your ears can name it. They appeared over the rise, 6 men walking in formation from the edge of the asphalt where the highway met the lot. Their boots struck the ground with quiet purpose. Their vests bore familiar patches that made bystanders whisper or move aside. The Hells Angels. They weren't riding this time. Their motorcycles waited behind them, gleaming like silent sentinels under the scorching sun. At the front walked a man carved from grit and years. Reed Calloway, salt and pepper beard, slicked back undercut, eyes cold and clear like ice that had seen too much. His tattooed arms moved with deliberate calm. Vince tried to laugh it off. "You boys lost," he called, his voice breaking halfway through. The Angels didn't respond. They didn't need to. The air itself shifted as they drew closer. Sunlight bounced off their leather, each crease a record of miles and stories. Reed's eyes locked first on Mara, then on the men surrounding her. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. Silence can be louder than shouting. Mara's breath caught. Hope flickered where despair had lived. Reed hadn't arrived by chance. From the highway, he had glimpsed something, a flash of blue and black pinned against a wall. It stirred an old wound. Years ago, before the gang, before prison, before regret, his own daughter had called him sobbing because someone wouldn't leave her alone after school. He hadn't been there. He'd been on a run chasing, a fight that meant nothing. When he came home, she was gone, for good. 8 years had passed. He wasn't about to walk past another man's daughter, not again. "Let's go," Vince muttered, suddenly unsure. But one of the Angels, a giant bald man with a beard to his chest, stepped forward, his shadow cutting across the asphalt. His voice came low and steady. "She's not going anywhere with you." Everything froze. The officer trembling, the thugs uncertain, the Angels unmoving, yet immovable. Vince's pride flared. He swung, a desperate, foolish act. Reed caught his wrist mid-air, fingers closing like iron. The sudden strength in that grip stole Vince's breath. Reed didn't strike him, he just shoved him back, ending it. Vince stumbled, hit the ground hard, his phone skidding away, screen frozen on the last cruel frame it had captured. The others backed off, muttering, realizing they weren't facing violence, but conviction. The laughter stopped. The cruelty evaporated. Mara sank to her knees, shaking as adrenaline drained away. Her torn uniform fluttered in the wind. Reed knelt beside her, his voice rough but gentle, telling her to breathe, to stand when she could. She looked up, eyes brimming with tears, this time not from fear but from overwhelming relief, when she thought no one would see her. Someone had. He handed her the torn piece of her uniform, her broken shield, and she took it with trembling hands. Behind them, the other angels stood like sentries, quiet, unposing, forming a wall between her and the rest of the world. For the first time that day, the sound of engines felt safe. Reed's gaze lingered on her badge. He gave a single nod. No words of thanks or apology were exchanged, but something unspoken passed between them. Maybe, in that moment, he found a sliver of redemption. A silent apology to the daughter he couldn't protect. As Mara stood, sunlight caught her badge again. It gleamed brighter this time, alive, renewed. She met Reed's eyes and nodded. One cop, one outlaw, two broken souls who had both found a reason to believe again. The angels turned, mounted their bikes, and roared back toward the open road. Engines thundered. The ground trembled beneath her boots, their silhouettes cut across the sky until they faded into the horizon. Mara stood for a long while, clutching the torn pieces of her uniform, staring after them. She didn't know their names. She didn't know where they came from. But she knew this. The line between sinner and savior was far thinner than she had ever imagined. Sometimes, the people we're taught to fear are the ones who show up when no one else does. If this story touched your heart, and reminded you that courage and compassion can rise from the most unlikely places, please support Stories of Kindness by liking, sharing, and commenting below. Before you go, tell us, what does redemption mean to you? Because as Mara watched those riders disappear into the light, she understood something the Academy had never taught her. Kindness doesn't always wear a badge, and salvation doesn't always arrive with sirens. Sometimes it comes roaring in on two wheels, wrapped in leather, carrying ghosts of the past toward something better. And under that merciless sun, for the first time in a long while, Mara Collins finally felt safe.